Greetings, everyone. Welcome to another segment of Thunderground Thursday on enlightenment and transformation. I am your conductor, Chief Yuya, also known as Yuya. And I want to welcome all of you who are listening right now in this moment, and also those of you who are tuning in later. I want to welcome you all. But anyway, I'm going to get right into it. This is going to be similar to some of the shows that I do sometimes. This will be a short one. Like I said, sometimes with Thunderground Thursday, I like to make the shows a little shorter because, again, they're more action-based. And it seems antithetical to the cause for me to spend a lot of time talking, when I should be giving some quick tips or quick advice or suggestions and letting you go do what's necessary after that. So I'm really riding off of something. I was listening to Sister Kim's show this Wednesday. Actually, the show's this strong. In my opinion, they were pretty good shows. Even Chief Speaks this Sunday. I think we covered some good ground and hit some interesting angles. And Masterminds Monday was an amazing show. Just the sharing that Sister Felicia and Brother Damon did, in terms of they were speaking about just the lack of support or even the closing or the boycotting that sometimes we do of African owned establishments. And that was a pretty good show. If you haven't checked it out, I advise you to do so. And then Sister Kim Wednesday picked a clip from Chief Speaks where a young lady had called in asking for advice as to where to start and how to start to get her world back in order again. So, she used that clip, and one of the things that I had suggested to her was meditation, and really not necessarily just getting into the practice of meditation, but I pointed out that there was two issues. That one, her environment was obviously, for whatever reason, was not necessarily conducive towards and for the things that she wanted to do. She wasn't able to conduct that vibration of what she was trying to live out or trying to accomplish in her current environment. So one of the things that I suggested was, to make a inventory list, to kind of really see where she's at and see what she needs to do, and to do that outside of the house. You'll find sometimes, even a lot of times with like different social media videos and things that people do, you find that they find one or two spots that they always seem to record themselves in, or get their thoughts together, and usually it's the bathroom and it's their car. If you notice that, both typically, most instances, usually pretty small environments, and in those small private environments, people can take pictures of themselves or speak about different things, give advice, sing, all sorts of things happen inside of the cars and in the bathrooms. So you find there that a lot of times what people just need for that creative genius to come out is a quiet space. And a lot of times, like I said, our homes are not conducive to who and what we are. Some of us are really interested in this form and modality of spirituality, but we live in homes where we can't put shrines, or where we can't leave our books out because someone may throw them out, or we can't sit on the phone and have a conversation with someone about our spirituality. We have to go to the car or to the backyard or walk away somewhere or to the coffee shop. And for a lot of you, especially those of you who may listen to Masterminds Monday and you're trying to figure out how to get your own businesses started and things like that, and where do I start? Always start with home base, because there are so many mutable things in the world that you want to have an environment when you come home that not only reflects and conducts the flow of what it is that you're trying to do, but also is a paradise. It's peace. You want to come home. If you can't come home to peace, where can you find peace? You're like a warrior on the front line all the time. And though it may sound heroic and poetic, yeah, I'm a warrior. You know, warriors on the front line who never come off tend to go insane. Only two choices. You either get shot, you get killed, or you go crazy. That's it. So you have to have that moment where you can repose and find a space where you could be yourself. And so I had spoken to her about that, and also shared that, you know, like I said, the self-inventory is important. And a lot of times in our work, when we want to get started, one of the reasons why we can't really get things off the ground is because we haven't done a proper self-assessment. You know, sometimes we do our self-assessments through someone else's eyes. Like one of the things you noticed, every time I asked her a question, she paused, and then like one of the most critical questions for her to answer, she told me what other people say. Well, they say this. And I get that so often in my work. People will come to me and I'll speak about, you know, or I'll ask them, what do you think your life purpose is? And they'll say, well, ever since I was little, people told me I was good at this, or people told me I was going to be this or be that. Well, those are hexes. You know, so when you're properly evaluating yourself so that you can move to the next place, honestly, one of the first things that you want to do is you want to ask yourself, what could I have done better? You know, in the time, in this last dispensation, let's say if it was a year, 2 years, it could have been months, but whatever, you know, whenever you know this new phase, a last phase started for you, and you know you're ending that phase and going into something else, you want to ask yourself, before I get started, what could I have done better before I transitioned? You know, it could be a marriage ending. What could I have done better? And what part did I play? Which is the most important question. Most important. What part did I play? Because we're so quick to talk that when things happen, we're already shaping and forming how we're going to present our story to someone else. We could be doing that in the middle of arguing with someone. We say, yeah, by the time I run this thing back down, I'm going to look like a saint. You know, and everything centers around what I'm going to post on social media, what I'm going to go run and tell everybody, what I'm going to send out in a text blast or whatever. And you're not really asking yourself the honest questions. What was the part that I played? And it has to be more than I let someone do the bad thing that I'm saying they did to me. That's never the honest answer. I don't care how many after school specials you watch, you know, that tell you it's not your fault, someone else's fault. You always play a part, no matter how horrible the experience. And your part it always goes beyond just letting something happen to you, or picking the wrong person to marry, or not listening to your friends when they told you that a person was no good. And if you can't honestly ask yourself that question and honestly answer it, you're just going to keep going in circles. So that's the first thing you want to do when you're doing a proper self-inventory and assessment. And I want to share something. I want you to think about something. You know, it's not going to be something that feels good. You know, you're not going to feel good when you think about it, because if you're in a situation that is uncomfortable or disagreeable, it's because you did something. You did something. So, you know, after you ask a question like that, you know, usually want to, like when you're taking self-inventory, you want to ask yourself, like, okay, what are my PowerPoints? You know, I don't mean the software, but like, what are my strengths? You know, what are my strong points that I need to look at and that I need to keep? And again, ask yourself honestly. Don't, you know, if you were in a relationship and there was a lot of problems all of the time and you were arguing, your strength may not be, well, I speak my mind. You may want to call that a strength, but it may not actually be your strength. It may be what people don't like about you. Not everything needs to be vocalized. I mean, only a babbling idiot would just let anything that's on their head or in their emotions just spill out of them for the rest of the world to deal with. A babbling idiot, a prima donna, or someone who is just completely parasitical, a parasite to their environment. So of course, obviously, you want to, after you deal with, well, what am I good at? You want to look at, what am I bad at? Honest question. What are my weaknesses? And not only, just what are my weak points? What are my vulnerabilities? But how can I fix them? Like I always tell people, whatever's broke, fix it. Whenever you're taking self-inventory and you're trying to get your act together, whatever's broke, just fix it. Start there. So it's the same thing, when you're dealing with the idea of your weaknesses, whatever's wrong, just fix it. And then you want to look at, how can I now take the onus or the personal initiative and the personal accountability to become better at what it is that I want to do, or what it is that I want to be, or really to become what it is that I want to be going forward. How can I personally, and that again takes personal accountability. You can't say, well, if people would just leave me alone, I could, you're not going to make it that way. You're not going to make it that way. So that personal assessment, it's usually not a feel good experience. It's not going to translate into something where you're going to look at your day-to-day conduct and say, oh yeah, I'm doing all right. You may have to review yourself or see yourself for a moment from the perspective of someone who wants you to do better, which is your higher self. So I know we say, when I look at myself from my higher self, I see love. Well, stop playing. We got to realize, especially as a people, I don't care what your race is, we don't really have the luxury to keep playing like this. You just think you do. Like individuals who know me personally, they know how much I talk about Mexicans all the time. And I mean, I might as well just like build a shrine to the Mexican people at this point, because I use them as like my examples for everything. Look at the Mexicans. Look at the Mexicans. Look at the Mexicans. Because one of the things, the Mexicans and Dominicans, I would say, but Mexicans more so. One of the things that I really appreciate about Mexican people is their sense of reality. And, again, the Most High will create you in the form that you are spiritually. They're typically small people. Large trunked, short legs. They're very close to the ground. And large trunks means, they have large ribs. They breathe in a lot of air. Typically mountainous people have those type of builds. But, so you'll find like they know what's really going on. And they're usually always ahead of the curve. One of the things I like about them is they do a lot of things that a lot of us would like to do in terms of like communal living, cooperative economics, collective work and responsibility. The difference with them is that they realize that they have no choice. They come into this country, America, maybe by any means, necessary. And they say, okay, well, maybe I can't get unemployment. I can't get benefits. I can't get this, that. So I'm going to have to figure out a way to make this still work for me. So, okay, a bunch of us will get a house, or, we'll rent it out, or a rooming house or whatever. And we'll all live together. We'll cook together. I got a friend of mine who, he's not Mexican. Well, he is Mexican, but some area that I've never really heard of. He's like in the hills, but he lives here now, and he's got like beautiful farmland and stuff. He used to drive a cab, so he came here, and I was teaching him English because he wants to go back and like really get more. He wants to buy more cabs. So he's like, the better my English is, the more I can drive cabs for like tourists and stuff like that. So. Now he's learning computers. I got him on computers. But one of the things about him I always thought was interesting is that he shares his bed with another brother. He's like a handyman. He works during the day. And there's another brother, he works at night, right? he does security or something like that down in the city. So they actually share the same bed because neither one of them are ever in the home at the same time. You know, while one is sleeping, the other one is away. While one is home, you know, while one is back home, the other one is away at work. It works for them. I mean, these are two grown 50-something-year-old men. You know, they don't sleep in a bed together, but they figured out a system that works for them. You know, we can rent a room, pay nothing, live in a nice neighborhood with a bunch of other of our brethren in the house with us. So it's basically like it's our house. And we share these beds. We don't drive. Everybody rides a bicycle. So gas prices, what gas prices? What gas hikes? I don't know what you're talking about. Police brutality, being profiled and pulled over. No, doesn't happen. We pretty much stay beneath the radar. Riding bikes and walking everywhere. You know. So, I mean, and obviously there's the health benefits. But, I mean, there's a lot of angles you can hit with that. So you find that the reality, really looking at your real situation, taking that evaluation and assessment, it starts to really make you realize the things that you have to do. Not just that you, out of luxury, I'm going to start a garden. Yeah, I've been meaning to. Or, yeah, I'm going to start trying to get with this food co-op. Or what. You realize, no, I got to do these things. And sometimes without taking those proper self-assessments, you don't realize that years are going by with things that you were supposed to do. And you're not setting the proper goals for yourself, or you're not really looking at the different areas and skills that you need to develop in, because you haven't really taken that evaluation based on the necessity and the urgency of your environment. You know, sometimes you might even realize you might not realize what you've already accomplished. Or like I said, when you look at yourself from your higher self's perspective, or maybe even from someone like my perspective for a second, and say, okay, well, my higher self has been telling me this, that. Let me be honest about that. And I haven't really been fulfilling that. You know, and I'm not talking about caving to external influence, but being honest about some of the things that you could have done, or you should have done, or that you really wanted to do, or that you expected of yourself, or really being honest about how engaged you are actually in the things that will bring about what you like. How engaged are you really in the work? You know, how in touch are you with the mission and the purpose of your personal agenda? Do you take the opportunities that you need to take in order to grow and to develop as a person? And again, all of these things may not feel good to deal with. And what I suggest is to keep like a evaluation diary for yourself, or journal. You know, I know you men listening, you may not want a diary, but a journal, a ledger that feels stronger for you. And really just, you know, document, chronicle your work, you know, your accomplishments. And then your accomplishments will energize you. But, you know, you can reflect on the times when you felt conflicted or you felt irritated about the things that you're trying to get done. You know, it doesn't have to be like a daily journal, dear diary. Today, you know, Tommy Simpson kissed me. You know, it doesn't have to be that type of thing. But it could be something where you're just kind to apply it to the work that you're doing, so that way at times when you need that dose of objectivity, you can give that to yourself, because you can easily identify the things that you want to do and the things that you don't want to do. You know, I can tell you one of the things that I've gotten into the habit of doing, especially as I've gotten a little older, is towards every the new year that I consider, towards the end of it, I write like a list of the things I don't want to do next year. You know, I did a show like the do not list, you know, or the things not to do list. But, you know, I have a list that I kind of keep. Like, I'll review the year and say, what are the things that I did that I realize at this point I just don't want to do anymore. It doesn't work for me. You know, what are those things? It could be something like, I don't want to cut my own grass anymore. I'm done with that. I don't want to work on my own car anymore. Or, I don't like cooking so often. It could be, you know, it could be anything. I mean, you go through it. I don't want to decorate. I don't like cleaning my own house anymore, maybe. You know, you figure out what it is for you. And it may be things that you've done for a long time because you felt that was the right thing to do. I know for years myself, I never let anybody do any work on any of my properties, because I always felt some type of way about another man coming to my home fixing something. And I know that sounds crazy, but that was just for years, my perverted sense of my manliness. Something breaks, I gotta fix it. But then as you start to grow and mature and develop in the things that you really want to do, you realize you don't have the energy or the desire for other things as much anymore. So now things start falling apart. You see? So then you have to make an honest assessment. Like, honestly, did I do what needed to be done with this? And what needs to be done to keep this up? And then you look at it and you say, am I really going to do that? Do I really want to do that? Just be honest with it. And, and this comes through a lot of meditation, building that life plan and following it based on your own, again, assessments, and being honest about, your shortcomings, and not feeling embarrassed because someone has beat you to the punch, in terms of expressing an evaluation to you. Sometimes we hate that so much. Someone will say something, you're like, oh yeah, I know, I already knew about that. I knew I had that. I know I had that issue. I already knew about that. Because you just don't want anyone to beat you to the punch. But you can't be afraid to ask for help, or to ask for someone to help you to tighten up in certain areas. Sometimes think about your first time you had to interview as a man, and you had to ask somebody to help you to tie a tie. How do I tie a tie? There's a lot of things in order to get to the next place that you may have to consult somebody with. How do I write a proper resume? Should I have an 8.5 by 11 picture of myself with my resume? Is that acceptable? Or should it just be the resume? Should I use Comic Sans font, or is that too Simpson-ish? Little things like that. Being okay with even differing points of view, and the guidance that you would get from your jegnas. Being appreciative for that wise counsel and feedback is important. And it's something that I want you to kind of think about when you think about meditation and meditating on your own personal qualities. You have like this idea of meditation, right? Medical, right? Medication, medical, meditation. They all have the same root, right? And it's med. So you find, that you're dealing with medicine here when you're meditating and reflecting on the things that you need to do. In fact, the original root in the Greek was medicus, medicus. I may be pronouncing it wrong, but I know it was medicus. And then it went from that. Well, before that, it was a Latin, and the Latin was medere, and medere was mederi. Yeah, mederi. Mederi. It might be medere. It's either medere or medere. I always say medere, but it might be medere. My Latin's a little, but either way, all of those words, medicine, medicate, medical, derived from that medere or medere, which it's defined as, doing something or paying attention to something. See, attention, that's your assessment, in order to accommodate or conduct or facilitate some form of healing to bring a situation or a person back to well-being. So when you meditate, it's not just to make yourself feel good, but it's to bring you back to well-being. But it's something important for you to think about. There's a phrase that we use often, and it's, you're going to take your medicine, right? And what does that usually mean? That means that you're going to ingest something, or you're going to listen to something or deal with something that is disagreeable to you, so that way you can get better. Sit down and take your medicine. You see? So now, what if I said sit down and meditate? Which I say that to children all the time. So, but if we say sit down and meditate, and then we go through the meditative experience and we find that it's disagreeable, then in fact you are implying and more in alignment with the idea of medicating and healing. because it's typically going to be something that's not, it's going to be disagreeable because of what you've done. You've let yourself get to a point now where doing the right thing doesn't feel good anymore, or hearing the right thing doesn't feel good anymore, because you've crafted and created this personality and this idea of yourself and this assessment of yourself that is so far beyond what you actually are. So when someone gives you the medicine, you're not motivated to make the right choices to experience better health. You're motivated to move away from the medicine, say, no, I don't want that. I want some more candy, making yourself even further sick. But at some point, you're going to run into a situation where you're going to have to medicate. You're going to have to meditate. And a lot of times it could be physical sickness where it sits you down and you can't move. I'm in the bed now. I got to lay down and I got to take this medicine that I hate. All this stuff is disgusting. Golden seal. Oh, they got me eating cacao powder or cacao niblets, cacao beans, because my brain activity is so slow. So now I got to take this stuff. Oh, this stuff is disgusting. Yeah, well, now we got to go hardcore on you because you allowed it to drift for so long. And we got to jumpstart that nervous system again. So you can start feeling and moving in a way where you're bringing about improved mental, emotional, and physical well-being. Bringing yourself back to what you may consider to be your optimal state of balance and alignment. So, I just wanted to speak on that somewhat briefly. I wanted to give you all that to think about this evening. When we consider meditation and we consider self-assessment, understand that it's not always going to be an enjoyable experience, but quite a necessary one to realign ourselves. And I urge you all to reassess constantly, like pretty much daily. Every time the sun goes down and comes back up, think about, what did I accomplish, the day before? What do I want to accomplish today? Am I moving closer to where I would like to be in life? And then monthly do a bigger assessment, and then, seasonally do another even bigger assessment, and then yearly do a big one, and then you may do it at certain important dates that you consider, maybe my 30th Earth Day, my 40th Earth Day, my 50th Earth Day, so forth and so on, because rites of passage never truly ends. But meditating, and I did the show on meditation already, you can check that one out, is your medicine. You gotta assess. And if you don't assess, you don't already know what you've accomplished, what you're good at, what you need to improve on, and you want to do it from the perspective of your highest self, not your personality, which is affected by external influences. So when someone says, well, how are you doing? You say, well, people tell me people are talking about the spirit. The spirit changes all the time. That's just one little part of you. You got other parts we got to assess. And remember, everything grows at the same time. So you may be working out and you're strong and your body's nice and toned and firm, and you got a sick mind. Trust me, you got a sick body. Maybe the other way around. You may be studying, reading books. You got all this knowledge and this and that, and you have a constant IV of snack cakes, or you have a soul food fetish. Trust me, your mind is sick. Your spirit is sick. Everything grows and heals at the same time, not independent of one another. All right. Thank you all for listening. That has been Thunderground Thursdays on Enlightenment and Transformation. I am Chief Yuya, Chief Jegna of the Anu Spiritual Order, head instructor of the Sadulu House Spiritual Center. If you're not a student of Sadulu House, become one. If you'd like to speak to me, consultation, anything, you can go to any of our sites, from orishareligion.com to saduluhouse.com to Anu Nation, ANUNATION.org, to we got some more in there, enlightenment and transformation.com, and there's some other ones that we're working on, but you can go to any of those sites to schedule readings and things like that. All right, so until such time, I will see you all tomorrow evening at 9 p.m. Eastern for Foundational Friday on Enlightenment and Transformation. Until such time, Odabo.